We have finished a pretty successful kidding season. So today we wanted to give a recap of all of the things that have happened, all the preemies that were born, all the things that we had to do that we didn't expect. And we wanted to see if we were right about the ultrasound predictions and the color predictions. So get excited.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
We were young and we were free and running, never bothered about what could be coming. Every day we danced and life was smiling. We were young and drunk in love.
Okay, so Tilly was bred in September to Finnick. He was our new buck last year from Tua Farms in Washington. When we did the ultrasound, we thought that we saw 2 to 3. We have one at the bottom and we have one at the top. Do we have one over here? Are you gonna have 3 finally? I don't know if I see a third. We really thought it would be 2, but it's just because little Newt was hiding in there because she ended up having a little runt and it took forever for her to like get that first kid out.
It really did.
But eventually she did. We had the one little runt and then we had honey and lavender. For the coloring, we got a buckskin and then we got 2 chocolate kids. Now I didn't initially put down that Finnick had a chocolate modifier, but he does. So that kind of influenced having some of that chocolate in there. So we bred Hazel in September as well to Finnick. He was a little bit short for the job, but he did it. He was good.
Yeah.
On the ultrasound, we were pretty confident that we saw 2 big ones. I think she's got at least 2 in each of these sacks. Even though I can't see a lot moving in there, those are pretty big. And that was right. They ended up being 2 big girls.
You and Lydia are good.
We're good. And Aspen ended up being a lot bigger than Cedar. So besides the big kids, she did pretty good. And they were both Dolings, so we were happy about that.
Made her feed lots of babies, have more milk this year.
And we were pretty spot on with the color because we got 1 broken buckskin and 1 chamazé.
Yeah,
so
that was cool.
That was pretty good. Now, Daphne was also bred to Finnick in September, and on the ultrasound, we saw a ton. We saw easily 5 or 6, but we wanted to be conservative, so we said maybe 3 to 4. She has so many sacks. That is so tricky.
So many sacks.
Like, look how many.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I say definitely 3, because I see 1 moving there. 1 moving down there, and then maybe 1 up there, so
nice.
At least 3. She ended up having quintuplets. She had 5 kids. She had 4 Dolings and 1 buckling. Unfortunately, 2 of the Dolings were stillborn, and it's interesting that there was like a 50-50 chance of her having a black or a chamazé kid, and she ended up having 4 black kids and 1 chamazé. But that doesn't really change the probabilities. Like, you know, if you flip a coin a bunch of times, it's still going to be 50-50 the next time you flip it, even if you get heads every time. So that's still the probability. It's just what happened. The biggest problem with having these quints though is she had 2 trying to come out at the same time, which made it really hard.
It was pretty crazy.
Trying to go in there and maneuver them, push 1 back, bring 1 forward. But eventually we got them all out, so.
Yeah, just had the 2 that didn't make it.
Now, Olive was bred in September to Finnick as well. We bred almost everybody in September. And on the ultrasound, we thought 2, maybe 3. I think there's 1 moving over there. Oh, then there's possibly the 3rd down there. Okay, well there's definitely 2. And she ended up having triplets, so that was pretty close. They all ended up being black with some white overlay, even though there was still a 50-50 chance of black or chamazé.
Yeah.
That's just what happened. And then Tatum was our last one that was bred in September, that delivered in February. And on her ultrasound, we were just hoping for at least 2. At least 2.
Yeah.
And for a while we thought we just saw 1, but then eventually we saw the second.
Yeah, okay. So we see a second one right there in the middle. First one was over back there. Okay, so we've got 2. I'm happy with 2. I'll take 2.
And we were happy with that, and she ended up having 2 kids. She had a Doling and a buckling.
Pretty good births.
Yeah, it was pretty easy. I think she kind of like stopped halfway with the heads, but it was still a lot easier than Daphne's kidding, for sure. Now, I initially said that Tucker was a gold, but he's actually a combo. He was actually like a buckskin chamois combo, just really light. And then Miss Lola was a buckskin with a ton of moon spots, so she's completely covered with them.
She's pretty.
So in that first batch, we ended up having 11 Dolings and 4 bucklings. So with this first batch, we did something kind of new this year where we bred our does only on the first day of their cycle. This is to encourage Dolings, or it's said to encourage Dolings because if you catch a doe really early in ovulation, it's said that the female designated sperm are going to live longer, and so they'll reach that egg because they have a little bit more stamina.
Yeah, the males die quicker.
It takes longer for the male sperm to hit that egg. I don't know. We didn't know if it worked, but it did. It worked for us at least this first year. Now, it probably would have been a better sampling if we had a bunch of different bucks to use to try that, because I mean, for all we know, Finnick just throws a bunch of girls too, but it was still fun kind of experiment to try.
Yeah.
So in our second batch of kidding this year, we bred Raven actually initially in September, and then that didn't take and we had to wait and breed her again in November. So she was kind of a later kidding than what we had planned on. The ultrasound, we just confirmed the pregnancy. We didn't do a count for her, but she ended up kidding a little early.
Yeah.
A little bit, 10 days early-ish.
Yeah, premature.
But she ended up having 2. She had a buckling that ended up being stillborn, and then a doling, which was Piper, and we brought her in the house and took care of her.
Yeah.
And she's this spunky little thing that acts like nothing can hurt her. She's just very resilient.
This is the first year we've had lots of them that we bring into the house and take care of.
Yeah. The buckling was a light buckskin, and little Piper is just like her mama. She's more of a black roan, although Raven's more of a chocolate roan. So next were the twin red girls. Dolly and Reba were both bred to Zorro almost on the same day. So that was his does that he bred this year, and they delivered almost on the same day, with like an hour apart on one day and the other day. So just as midnight rolled around, we had those kittings. And when we did the ultrasound on Dolly, we saw a ton of babies as well, because we get a really good view. Wow.
Dolly.
Look, they're all like moving in there. Does that one over there really have one in there?
Yeah,
I don't know.
so.
Looks pretty good. Wow. Can you imagine if she had 4 on her
That'd
first
be
time?
insane.
So we didn't really make a prediction. We just knew that there were going to be a lot of kids.
Yeah.
And she ended up having quads. She had 2 Dolings and 2 bucklings. And it's funny because each kid was sort of like a gold chocolate combo. So they all have just like this weird different kind of markings. Oh, except for Romeo. He's kind of an all gold. He's got like one little tiny moon spot on the back.
And they were bad during birthing because they all stuck their heads way down and it was crazy.
They were bad. Every single kid had its head down, feet forward, head to the side. It was pretty horrible, but we got them all out. Unfortunately, Isla lived for about a week, and then she just didn't seem to be breathing right, and she just didn't make it. Whoa!
3? Wait, except there looks like there might be one over here.
Yeah. Let's see. Is there one over there? So when it came time for Reba to deliver, she did pretty well. She just basically popped out those babies about an hour after Dolly.
Really well.
Acted like no big deal. And she had a doling and a buckling. So worked out perfectly. And they were both just straight gold, almost identical to her. So
big
kids. Then we ended our kidding season with Prim, and Prim had just like the sweetest, perfect little delivery you could ever want. She was actually bred to Finnick, and on the ultrasound we were just confirming, so we had no idea how many she was gonna have. We thought maybe 1, maybe 2, and she ended up having 2, a doling and a buckling. We got a fun chamois with some white overlay, and then we got a black kid with some white overlay. So in this juniors batch that we bred, we didn't do the first day breeding. We just put them in with the bucks because we just wanted to make sure that they got bred since it was their first time. And we got about 50-50. We got 5 does and 5 bucks.
Not nearly as good.
Not nearly as good. So next year, are we gonna still do the day 1 breeding? I say yes. Like, we want to try it again to see if it encourages, you know,
more girls,
more Dolings. They're easier to sell. It's better to have more of a sampling when you're trying to choose which one to raise up. And yeah, the Dolings are definitely a better thing that we always
nice.
want.
And
they're not annoying.
Well behaved.
Yeah. So the best kidding award, I think, goes to Reba and Prim. For sure. They had the best. The worst is Daphne and Dolly. They were the worst.
Combo.
Yes. So we also did something this year. We did flushing, which means we gave the does about a month before breeding season just some extra feed, a little bit stronger minerals, and it seemed to work. We seemed to boost the number of kids. Although next year, I don't know if I'll do it for the Daphne Dolly, because they seem to already have a lot of multiples. So I definitely don't want to do that again for them. But for the others, it seemed to work out to help just boost, get them that extra one, because you never really want a singleton, because single babies can get really big. They're harder to deliver. They also can make the udder lopsided. You have way more of a chance of that. So we don't like the singletons.
Yeah.
I think next year as well, we are going to push the kiddings closer together, if you can believe that. We want them all to kid in February, maybe a little bit in March, but we don't want to have them deliver so late towards April. It gets too hot here, there's flies. Like today is 92, so it's just kind of hot to have little kids running around. As far as the barn setup, we're gonna tear down this barn, we're gonna build a huge barn. No, we're not. This barn actually works really well. We might make some dividers in the stalls, because in those moments when the mamas are first with the kids, we just need to divide it a little bit. But so far, this barn worked out really well. I really liked it. So as far as which kids we're keeping, I think we're gonna stick with the original 4 plus the new Doling that we brought in from California, River from Wolva Van Ranch.
So basically it was a very successful breeding season. We're geniuses in making lots of girls. If you count the ones that didn't make it, how many girls was it?
So we had 11, well, we had 11 does, 4 bucks in the first batch, and then we had 5 does, 5 bucks in the second batch.
Is that counting the girls that didn't make it?
Yeah, that's counting all of them. So that was a lot.
A lot of girls. Girls are better.
Yeah.